And of course, one thing is for sure, this is not the time for the economic amateur hour. You really just don't want to be taking chances or guesses with the Australian economy. Australians have actually survived and in some cases thrived despite the effect of the pandemic and of course the political posturing that's come with it. And it's reasonable to say that the big spend of taxpayers' funds on JobKeeper and JobSeeker allowances probably did save our economic bacon in the early part of last year. Of course, yes, we've mortgaged our future generations to the hilt, but if we grow the economy, the debt as a percentage of our overall economy becomes less problematic and more manageable. That's the theory. And in many ways, it's just like the decision that we might make when we buy our first home. Now, I hate to borrow my example, but I bought my first home 40 years ago. I turned 21. I was working a couple of jobs. I was earning about $15,000 a year. I bought a modest home for $26,000. I borrowed and I took on a mortgage with interest rates. Well, frankly, at times they were 10 times bigger than they are right now. And the first thing I spent my wage on each week was on the bank. I had a plan and I worked to secure a result. So you can do it. The Australians, of course, today face exactly that same prospect right now. So I believe if we back ourselves, if we actually plan for our future and we earn more than we spend as a country, we can pay off the debt faster and we can grow our national wealth. But it takes good management. It's a basic idea, but it takes good management. Now, in the past couple of years, despite the upheaval, more and more Australians have actually taken on big mortgages. In fact, so many people have become property millionaires as a result. Low interest rates, of course, have created certainty for many people, although there remains some genuine challenges for some to enter the housing market. And with a federal election due in a few months' time, people who own a home now need to think about just the real threat that I think is coming. Their personal plans may well be turned upside down because of the views of the extreme left of Australian politics. You see, the Greens, they only need to target a small group to gain great power. And Labor cannot win an election without the Greens giving preferences, nor can they pass legislation to actually run the country without the Greens. And the Greens may not go into government, but they will continue to target small groups of Australians, for instance, like the housing have-nots, with promises to tax family homes, to pay for more social housing. And the Greens are actually also against building things like dams. And they are a genuine threat to Australians who've backed themselves and borrowed to build a future. You know, it's an argument that Scott Morrison, I believe, needs to make. But the Greens will be the tail that is wagging the Labor dog, and it's a genuine risk to those of us with a home, or perhaps those of us who are wanting to get a home. You see, for the Greens, it's all about deals within deals, not about government, not about responsibility. They take no responsibility for the hurt. They believe you don't need farmers because, hey, we've got supermarkets. Now, the Greens' Labor deals will risk our personal situation, and indeed our national security and our national sovereignty. Greens' Labor deals are even a threat to the South East Queensland 2032 Olympics. I mean, it's just 10 years away. But existing Green tape, riddled bureaucratic processes of the Queensland state government, and indeed the political relationship Labor has with the Greens, means that much of the basic infrastructure which is needed will be struggling to be ready. You see, the Greens don't want dams. There's no water plan for the 2032 Olympics. And heaven help us if there's a flood or a drought in South East Queensland in the months before this massive international event, because there's no contingencies. They'll just blame climate change. The Greens will delay and continue to deny the building of new quarries, which are just so necessary for the gravel that is crushed to make concrete. But you see, the Greens are against concrete too. And then there's waste management and, of course, key infrastructure for transport, all contingent on the extreme Greens and signing off on it. Of course, then there's electricity supply, plenty of coal in the ground, but you can't use that. And on and on and on it goes. So if the 2032 Olympics become further embroiled in this farce created by Labor-Green deals, wait till a future Labor federal government gets involved as well as the Queensland government. You know, nothing's going to happen. There'll be no new water. There'll be no new power. There'll be no new roads. There'll be no new economic infrastructure to provide a long-term legacy. We'll all be riding push bikes to get to Olympic events. Sounds pretty appealing. Not really. But back to the family home. Given that interest rates are about risk, and risk rises with the change of a government, as Newspoll suggests, that change is on. In fact, Albo's picking out the curtains. The time to start preparing for your own personal economic health, I believe, is right now.